You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We are the ElseNerds.
Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague, and joining me is Corey Scott. And real quick, before we get started, for all info on this show, including show notes and subscription links, go to ElseNerds.com. And for all other Galactic Network programs, go to gncast.com. And as a warning, on ElseNerds, we tend to shoot our mouths off without thinking, so we will both spoil things and swear liberally. You have been warned. Corey, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Gregor?
I'm doing good.
Do you ever know if I'm gonna do the interruption of that last line before you get to introduce me? If I throw in some random thing of it's kind of like this thing, only it's really fucked up, and I do something self-depreciating to the show.
Honestly, you haven't done those in a while, so I sort of forgotten.
No, I did it last week, but you don't pay attention, and it doesn't matter.
Oh no,
but
no, yeah, I remember that. But I'm talking about the ones where you're like, yeah, so we did the excuse of we would have done it here, but and you insert a news thing.
Yeah, ElseNerds is like the P tape. No one's really sure if it exists, and nobody's seen it.
But yeah, I've been doing good. I mean, I saw a lot of stuff. I did, watch the wrestling stuff. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow on the ElseNerds channel, because we had the big WrestleMania, and that was the whole weekend thing was awesome. But I don't know. I'll leave it at that. Let's jump right into the news. Speaking of wrestling, which is on USA Network, which has ordered 4 pilots. It has done just that. All of them from the Universal Cable Productions, which is basically saying just one guy yelling out the door, "Give us some ideas." That's basically what it is. It's same company. There's the first one has the big thing with this is actually on 2 folds. It is set in the Jason Bourne universe, and it has the Heroes creator Tim Kring, which I may have lost some people there, but he had great ideas. They just didn't get executed, mainly in my opinion because of the writer's strike that happened.
No, because when the writers came back, the show didn't get better. Let's just face facts. Heroes had a really good first season up until the last episode and never recovered. And then they even brought it back years later, and it just was the same dumb shit. It was a hot mess. It was a hot mess because it's we'll do superheroes for TV, but we'll do it right, and we'll not fuck up in the way the comic books do. Which is weird because they had some people from comic books actually work on the show, and they just had no fucking clue how to tell a story.
Yeah,
it's just you wait a few episodes to find powers and oh cool powers and oh cool this and Hero himself is a neat guy and I like his story a little bit, but you have no place to take it, and in the end, it's all just fucking stupid shit that didn't matter. None of it mattered. It's let's give every fucking power to Peter Petrelli and every other power to fucking Skylar and whoops, we don't understand why there's no tension in this anymore, because it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Hopefully this isn't bullshit. Did you name the show?
Yeah, no, I didn't. So the show is going to be called Treadstone, and it's like I said, it's
about tires.
Yes, exactly. No, it's set in Treadstone is the Black Ops covert operation thing that this universe takes place into. And the big thing is actually I'll read right directly from here. It's a covert operation that uses behavior modification protocol to turn its agents into nearly unstoppable superhuman assassins.
Isn't that how they're using Facebook right now?
That's how Cambridge Analytica is using it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as opposed to assassins, turning them into Zynga players that annoy me with their fucking memes every day.
Yeah. The big part of this is Jason Bourne, the center of the Bourne franchise, was a product of this program. The series follows new sleeper agents all across the globe as they've mysteriously awakened And as I said, Tim Kring is going to serve serving as a writer and executive producer. Ramin Bahrani will direct the pilot and also serve as an executive producer. Ben Smith and Jeffrey Weiner will executive produce on behalf of Captivate, and Justin Levy will executive produce alongside Bradley Thomas for Imperative Entertainment. All in all, that sounds like really cool. It's
No, it says Jason Bourne is one of the Treadstone success programs. I assume Jeremy Renner was not as successful, but he was part of that too, right? And so this is going to be about a bunch of other people that are like that get activated and go and do whatever. I assume, again, because this is from the people who brought you Heroes, is that they're just going to get to a point where they say, well, fuck it, we'll follow a person who was supposed to be an agent but then wasn't, and we'll just call it Unborn. And no,
that's a whole different show entirely. It's a whole different show entirely that just will never happen because it creates so much controversy.
It's a girl who's like, I was gonna go on 16 and Pregnant on TV, but damn it, suddenly there was blood in the toilet. No, man, it's just. I think that this is probably gonna be okay. They've had a few different spy action series on USA, and they're usually pretty good. Even if I don't watch every single one of them, and some of them, like the Michael Weston thing, just went on way too goddamn long because you never learned a fucking lesson. But it was a good show and had good, capable actors in it. So hopefully this can land. I don't know. The Jason Bourne movie just came out last year, right? The last one with Matt Damon, and did it do very well?
I don't think it did too well. No,
right. So they did the first 3 Bourne movies, which was like, oh great, we've got a really good trilogy, and then they said, oh, we're going to relaunch with Renner, and people went Hawkeye, and which I like Jeremy Renner quite a bit. I liked him on The Unusuals, an ABC series that he did before he took off into film. I think before The Hurt Locker, actually. But that didn't seem to do a lot either. And so are people just jumping up and down for more Bourne-related properties, especially when Damon isn't even involved in it?
I think the big thing with that one is the fact that it's a universe where they're using Jason Bourne as the hook, as getting eyes to this show.
So it's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes. In that regards of where they're using the Avengers to get the eyeballs to to it. But then what I think is going to keep it is the fact that there's going to be really compelling storytelling. Because with what it sounds like it's a little bit of mixture of the Bourne movies, obviously, with Sense8.
What Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should have been.
Yeah. Where the agents are all activated from around, it says around the world, or awakened, as it says, and then the hilarity ensues. So the things will happen after that of figuring whatever it means to be awakened. So they're gonna then have to do these missions and stuff like that. I don't know. It sounds it does sound a little bit expensive. But I mean, all in all, honestly, they will probably do what they did with Covert Affairs, where they're going to take film a lot of it in where it's supposed to be set in DC or whatever, but they're going to film it in Toronto to cut the budget and all that stuff. The next one is called Briar Patch. This is based on the Ross Thomas novel of the same name. And basically the show follows Allegra Dill, an investigator returning to her border town, Texas home after her sister is murdered by a car bomb. And she begins to find that her hometown is just as corrupt as when she left and stuff like that. And she's basically, this sounds a lot like some other shows that have been on USA Network or similar to a lot of other shows that have been on there.
There was an FX show, I think, that was a female cop, and it was like it kept going across between where they were on the Mexican border, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly what it's called, the bridge maybe. But this sounds, the Search for a Killer is at least a fundamental story. we're looking to get somewhere, and hopefully they wrap that story up, at least that portion of the story of her story, in one season, and then they find ways to continue with her going beyond that. But I don't want to see another thing of like the long trek to solve this mystery of multiple seasons, like what they did with The Mentalist, or what they did with The Killing, or Twin Peaks, which I love Twin Peaks, but that's one of the hardest parts about it is like at some point you got to fucking tell us who did it.
So I didn't even give you the biggest part. Andy Greenwald serves as a writer and executive producer with Mr. Robot creator Sam Esmail. Also executive producing through his production company, Esmail Corp, Anonymous Corpse, or Anonymous Contents. Chad Hamilton will also executive produce. Jan Demange will direct and serve as executive producer. And this is a co-production between Universal Cable Productions and Paramount Television. So you have the backing of the creator of Mr. Robot, USA
and Anonymous.
Yeah, and yeah. USA's biggest show to come out, gosh, I'd probably say since Suits. I mean, because Suits had a big following at first, but then it fell out and all that.
I wonder if Suits is getting kind of like any more recognition now because of Meghan Markle being who she is outside of the show. Suits was always a great show though, and she was always fantastic on it. So it's really interesting to me to see.
Ginger, be honest, because she's marrying a ginger boy.
Exactly. Yeah, one of those Weasley boys. But no, I loved the first season of Mr. Robot. Now I haven't followed up to the second and third season so far. Yeah. And I've heard kind of mixed reviews of how the second season went, but that doesn't really bug me. But I loved what they did, and a lot of that really had to do with the fact that the way that they utilized technology was intelligent and felt real. It felt honest. You saw actual hacking taking place that you could tell if you have any kind of experience in tech that it was pretty accurate, and that kind of stuff was important. To see them do something so perceivably different, we don't know until we see how it's executed, will be interesting. Because I mean, we're used to this one product, and it's sort of a make or break when you go to your second product and how people receive that. And can you tell good stories without that? I'm not going to say crutch, but without that kind of like endpoint for the tech community of, oh, I'm watching this because of the tech aspect of it and because of the creepiness and everything. There was definitely very, very good writing in the first season as I watched it. So I expect good things from this show, and just the theme. This is a kind of show that I would be interested in watching anyways, again, as long as we lead to an actual answer. Now, there weren't a lot of fucking answers at the end of Mr. Robot's first season, but I didn't expect there to be. That thing just got more and more cloudy as it went along, but it did reveal things to you that you probably could have held for seasons at a time. Lost would have gone like 9 seasons and a movie. Oh no, that's Community. But definitely they did give you payoffs, and as long as they keep that aspect of it, then yeah, I would totally tune in for this.
Yeah. I was looking at Sam Esmail's, just what he was credited for.
I love the fact that Sam Esmail's production company is called Esmail Corp, which is E Corp, which is just one letter designation ahead of F Corp.
Yeah. Well, which I thought the one company was E Corp because
you're right.
F Society.
F Society, correct.
Yeah,
my mistake. See, it's been a while.
Yeah, but he hasn't really done a lot. But I mean, it's still what he has done. It has been really, really good, and they've used a lot of stuff. They've used a lot of stuff from Hack 5. Like they use the Wi-Fi pineapple. They use.
So they're stealing from Psych. You watch the show.
No, yeah, they're stealing from Darren Kitchen. No, they're honestly like that was one of the biggest things that I, from watching season 1 of Mr. Robot was the fact that, seeing guys like Darren Kitchen, through Brian Brushwood, who's just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and Darren's like, yeah, they're using my product, and we can't keep this stuff in our warehouse. It's like we get it made and boom, out it goes.
Yeah, you like to see that happen for some of these cool narratives.
Yeah, and I mean, it was also from the fact that, like, you know, I know the basics, and I mean the basics of like the hacking stuff, and it's like, you know, hearing that
nobody hacks in BASIC anymore, man. That's old Commodore technology.
True. But hearing, you know, people like Darren who know, you know, a lot more of the cybersecurity say how accurate it is. I'm like, all right, yeah, they've done their research more than just this is one of my favorite things I heard from the writers of House, where they would write the script and they literally just write medical when they were doing medical terms and all that, and then have a consultant come in and go, well, you should use this one, and then it would do this and that, blah blah blah, and all that. But yeah,
I remember writing up a program actually on my Commodore 64 that was meant to emulate what they did on the old 80s show Whiz Kids, which is when you would see somebody typing stuff on the keyboard, and there would be no correlation between what they were typing and what was showing up on screen. But what they would do is they had a program, and the program would type the text up on the screen. No matter what key they hit, it would type the next letter in what was supposed to be coming up. And I remember writing a program, probably like I got it out of family computing or something, that did that. And like the hours that I spent sitting there typing all the code up to do it. But it was just so cool to me to be doing something that emulated a show that I watched on TV. And that's just as a little kid, not something that I made myself. So the idea of being a person who's made a product, and to get that kind of recognition of your product being good to the point where the show wants to use it, and then on top of that, have the show's success lead to your product being sold in a higher number. That's amazing. Yeah,
and we got off a little bit on there, but the third show that we're going to talk about is Dare Me. This is based on the novel of the same name by Megan Abbott, who will also serve as executive producer alongside Gina Fator, Peter Berg, and Michael Lombardo through Film 44 alongside Sarah Condon and Karen Rosenfeld. Now, this is, in my opinion, from what it sounds like here, a little bit of a departure from typical USA shows. It's a good departure, but it's not the typical, or at least what I would expect from them. The series, it dives into the cutthroat world of competitive high school cheerleading in a small Midwestern town, through the eyes of two best friends after a new coach arrives to bring their team to prominence and all that. So it to me screams like, okay, this could have went down the road of, and of course, obviously without reading the book, without reading the novel this is based off, could have been on, like CW before they did Arrow, when they did, TV shows like Hellcats, or Freeform. It could have been like one of those avenues.
It could be close to a Friday Night Lights type of thing if it goes high drama. If it goes young drama, or even dramedy, if it does something of like the what was the one about the doctor and his brother that were living in the rich man's house?
Royal Pains.
Royal Pains. And then there was the woman who became the football coach. Her show was kind of in that same kind of taste.
You mean that she became the football psychiatrist? Necessary.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes. It could lean to more of that kind of feel, not being a super serious drama show or high action show, but something where it's got the characters that you just kind of deal with every week. The only difference is that in both those things, they had the new problems that would show up every week. That would be the episode's key, and then you get the character stuff around it that would just develop as the season went on.
Yeah, definitely. And then the final one for this article is Erase. Now, start right out with this. This is the one that I'm like, okay, yes, I want to talk about this article because of this show. It's created by Denis Leary along with Alex Carey, which I don't know if Alex Carey was with him on Rescue Me, but it sounds a lot, and like we might go down that Rescue Me type show territory. This is set to be a dark comedy about a dirty ex-cop who decides to do the right thing and bring down his complicit superior officers. But his best weapon in this battle, a photographic memory, is suddenly compromised by symptoms of early onset Alzheimer's. So now it is So
Alex Carey worked on Homeland, worked on Lie to Me, worked on Legends, which I've never actually heard of, and the Taken TV series.
Okay. Yeah, and then
and worked on In Plain Sight, which I remember as a USA show.
Yep. The In Plain Sight I don't think did too well there, but still, I mean, it's, a lot of other great things that he's done.
5 seasons, man.
Oh no, wait, hold on. In Plain Sight, what one was that one?
That was the I think she was a ranger. Her and her partner.
Oh yeah. It did fine. It was just one of those like I say, it just didn't catch my eye. Is more what I meant. But no, yeah, this seems like really cool. Denis Leary is going to be starring in this as the lead character, Donald O'Neill. And it sounds really cool. Like, it reminded me a little bit of of Psych, where he's got the photographic memory, much like Sean Spencer did, but going obviously way darker than what Psych ever did. And also bringing up the fact that he's got Alzheimer's. He's got early onset Alzheimer's, which is going to play probably big the longer the show goes. Like, if it makes it through.
And a dirty ex-cop is kind of par for the kind of character that Leary plays well. He's never really the best guy in his shows. He's always a little underhanded, underserving of others. But in his heart, he's not an awful person. He just is greedy. He thinks with his dick too much, whatever it may be. He's not from the Shield, but he's not exactly your goody two shoes cop either.
Yeah, so that's it.
And then they come out of the cave like Jesus. Woo!
That's it for those. I mean, honestly, USA's doing more, and I think this is Suits' last season.
They've made it sound like Suits may continue, but it's going to be the last season for 2 of the main characters from it.
Yeah, because Meghan Markle, she's like, I'm done with acting, because she's gonna be just Princess Meghan or whatever her title will be over, when she's done when she gets married to Prince Harry in like a month. I think it's in May. I don't know. I haven't watched enough BBC America to see the advertisements of the royal wedding. It's like, so you're re-airing Kate and Prince William? but yeah, so I mean, and honestly, it is good to shake things up a little bit, with these shows, especially, if it gives breaks for shows like Mr. Robot, to where they're not, constantly having to put stuff out, to fill in gaps or stuff like that, to where we can get a little bit of a break, to where they can catch up, fully plan out where they want to go. I don't know.
If it means that I don't have to see so many goddamn Chris Lee episodes and Chris Lee's talk show, then I don't know. Oh, God. Like, man, that's a rough choice to go with, USA.
Especially where it's like, I feel like from watching the advertisements from, this week with wrestling, where they had their, they have one of the songs that it's like a popular song. And I'm like, wait, are they Cousin Olivering this? That means when I got one more season, yes. Because like they got like this little black girl, I think that they adopted or something. And I'm like, so they're bringing in this little kid because they need more, ratings or whatever. All right, cool. This means that they're panicking. It means we're almost done with this nightmare.
One would hope.
Yeah, but speaking of renewals, we have a little twofer here. The first bit is that Jessica Jones is officially returning for season 3. This is where I admit I have not seen season 2 yet, and it is because there's a lot of stuff on.
There is a lot of stuff on. I sat through season 2. I can't remember if I watched it in one weekend or over 2, but I went through it pretty fast shortly after it came out. So probably not the first weekend, but in the first month, I think I sat through the whole season. It's good. It had a lot of things that it wasn't going to be able to do, which is one, with the excellent villain that they had in the first season, they weren't going to be able to land at that same point. And definitely as far as villains go, I had some problems with the choices that they made, but that was in the ideas. the execution, the long term of it, I think turned out pretty good. At the point when they introduced the villain, I didn't have a lot of interest. Then they gave us information as to who the villain was. I was like, oh, Jesus, are they really doing that? And then what happened with the story after that was actually quite solid, and I liked most of it. I didn't love how it kind of became very pat and how it ended. And man, I didn't really dig Patsy this season. I think they did a lot of stuff with her character that just didn't feel right and had terrible motivations. In the end, I hope it leads to a really good third season. But this one was far more up and down for me than the first season was. But that's to be expected. The first half of Daredevil season 2, I thought was great with all the Punisher stuff. And then they went to the Elektra stuff, and I was like, this is awful. Yeah. I have no interest in this. And what a weird twist to take. Luke Cage, same sort of thing. First half of the season was just great. And then the second half of the season went to a really stupid, over-the-top villain that just tore away all of the goodwill that I think the first half had built. So I think that there's a lot of room in these Netflix series to grow, but the fact that it's coming back is a good sign for Netflix, for Marvel shows on Netflix, for their continuing relationship, which is important, I think, right now still. And I really enjoy Ritter as Jessica Jones. So I'm glad to see it return.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then the other part here is that, because I mean, honestly, I have nothing to add to that, is that HBO has renewed Silicon Valley for a 6th and possible final season, and Bill Hader's Barry. Now Barry, I have not jumped into yet.
I haven't yet either. I want to, again, because I like Bill Hader and he's not Fred Armisen. But I haven't made it episode. I am going to say, man, Silicon Valley, when was the last season that it was funny? Because I kind of remember thinking the end of the first season ended on such a high point of it being really, really funny.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember a time since then that I thought, oh, this is a funny show. It's more of I watch it out of obligation. Well, like Kamel's on it. I really like Kamel.
Yeah.
He's so counterbalanced by Middle Bitch or whatever his name is, the main guy. I don't like him at all. And it seems like the show is more about watching these guys just make shitty fucking decisions the whole time, and I have no way to root for them at this point. I don't like any of them. I just kind of I watch along, and I keep hoping that it'll be humorous at least. And unfortunately, the funniest one on the show was probably T.J. Miller, and now he's hilarious in new and exciting ways on trains. But I feel like I need to watch the show because of the subject matter, because of the little in-jokes about tech are good, but for the most part, the funniest things about it are so few and far between.
Yeah,
that it's just torture at this point. It's not Heroes torture, but it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, part of the humor is the fact is the Martin Starr and Kamel's characters, like they're like the episode. What was it? Not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, where Kamel's character got a Tesla.
Yeah,
where Dinesh got a Tesla, and then Martin Starr's character ended up getting an electric bike that looked like it belongs at Burning Man, and all that, like that.
Gilpo the anarchist versus Dinesh the I'm just gonna say anti-socialist because he has no social game at all. I enjoy them. I like the COO of the company. I think because he's just so sweet, but the main guy is just so terrible and brings nothing out in me. It's like I want to see him get shot in the face. I want to see like the original ending of Clerks with him is he's just sitting in his office, like doing some dumb coding, dicking around shit, and not making his company succeed at all. Like I just go fucking die in a Verizon commercial.
Yeah,
I don't want you to die. I'm literally being very, very facetious.
Yeah,
but the character is just driving me up.
Because it is one of those things that you see here. Like for me watching it, you see the fact that you have Richard Hendricks, who is very self-destructive with how he, and of course Middleditch is an actual VC now. I mean, good God, if I had a bunch of money, I could become a VC. I mean, it's not like it's that hard.
Venereal challenger?
Venture capitalist.
Okay. And here we have to point out that this is a comedy that a lot of people love.
Yeah.
And the annoyances that I have with this character are kind of like what I felt with Michael Scott on The Office. Mm-hmm. Is that just the wrongness, the just blatant ineptitude, and how he just continuously fucks things up worse and worse. I didn't really love The Office, and certainly some of the episodes were way worse for me than others. As much as I liked some of the other people in the room, like that character being the focus, and what they went to after Carell left to Ed Helms, and Helms' character being even worse in that way. Like, but those are shows that are successful. So there's just a type of show that I don't like. And this appears to be it. But I still feel like I haven't seen something truly funny since that first season. And it's kind of like it's riding high on something that it did well once and hasn't improved on or matched since. Like, do you feel like there's been just like laugh out loud hilarious moments like that lately?
With Silicon Valley, what I'll say is last season, so season 4, it was watching it was like watching the self-destruction for me was funny, because it was season 3, season 4, where it was like watching him self-destruct, just full on shoot himself in the fucking foot.
But that's all he does.
Yeah. Like that's
the Michael Weston thing over again. It's like at some point I just get burnt out on it. If the character can't learn, or if it's his only shtick, then it loses something to me. The hot dog, not a hot dog. That's funnier because it's a real app that they turned it into an actual app. Mm-hmm. The taking over the refrigerators thing is like mildly funny because again it's the technology stuff, but I don't see the humor in the characters.
For the overarching thing, you don't see the humor.
Yeah,
and where it's like even now with Jin Yang, it's sort of like,
oh yeah, like of all the things that we had to lose in the show, we keep Jin Yang.
Yeah, like, where it's like Jin Yang is honestly just an asshole in there, and I mean, yeah, he has his funny moments, but his funniest moments were playing off of T.J. Miller. Those were his best moments. Now it's just he's an asshole,
Yeah, it's like the Tonight Show if Johnny Carson left and Ed McMahon was still just sitting there in the chair doing his thing, doing an empty Carson chair.
No, exactly, and it's just like, I mean, like I still like the show. Don't get me wrong. It's just I feel like they can do, like there's a quote in the article from Mike Judge that he gave last year to your last summer to the Hollywood Reporter, and he goes, season 5 would be the second to last. Yeah, that's how we were talking when we were setting up this season finale, talking about season 4, just to help us in the writing. But you never know, it could be that it gets to 6 and someone has some idea. That's the only reason that's the only way I think that it does stay on, is if they have some idea that changes up a lot of things in there.
Well, because they haven't had any for the last 3 seasons, but okay, maybe just hope for the best. We should just call ElseNerds Corey shits on everything, because that's I don't mean to. You enjoy it. I want to enjoy it. That's the thing, is I'm desperate to enjoy this show.
No, yeah.
There are shows that I know are just not for me. this show should be good.
Well,
and it frustrates me that I don't feel that it is.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Beat's given us a lot of great bits in there, like he says, the Bitcoin fluctuations where they had the song kick in. Yeah, the Napalm Death song.
I don't know that it was that great of a bit.
But here's the thing: it's a great.
I'm in a room full of tech people. I leave the computer on. Nobody knows how to unplug the speakers from my fucking computer when I'm not there.
Yeah.
So everyone's just standing around still dealing with it. And there's the suspension of disbelief that I just will not accept.
But even then, it's like Beat's given us a lot of the stuff in here. Like with Jin Yang, the Hot Dog Not Hot Dog app. A lot of it is either little bit jokes or it's a B plot. It's not really the A plot that is what you're getting at, because it's
right.
Trust me, I still enjoy the show. It's just I see where you're coming from, because I've had those thoughts in my head this whole time, and it's like I'm like, it's the car crash thing. It's like, I'm watching this guy, in a car crash, and he's just crashing over and over and over again. At some point, you would think I would be like, okay, I'm done watching this car crash. I'm gonna go over here, and yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. There's a thing called hate watching. I don't hate watch.
Yeah.
I'm not watching the show because I despise it. I don't despise it. I certainly dislike certain aspects of it or certain characters in it.
Yeah.
Maybe more than mildly. But I know that there's something that could be there, and I know that with the people involved, it could be and has been a funnier show. It kills me when I see something labeled as a comedy and it doesn't do anything to try to be funny.
Yeah.
Because just what are you
now? Do you think that Silicon Valley would have went down a whole other path if the actor who played Peter Gregory didn't pass away?
Probably.
Yeah.
But you look at what they're doing right now is we're underutilizing characters that are there.
Yeah.
I see Amanda Crew in the credits every week, and I want her to be a part of the show like she's credited. She's never in it.
Yeah. She was never in
it.
She was in episode 2 this so far.
Yeah, and this show still doesn't have any intention of having female characters be a real part of it, which is also incredibly frustrating.
Yeah,
it's like, man, I've watched enough Kevin Smith movies. I can sit and laugh at 2 hours of dick and fart jokes, or I can do that on my own podcasts. And as a person who's in 3 podcasts that unfortunately don't have any female co-hosts, I know I can't throw big stones at this without someone saying, "Oh, there goes your testicles, huh?" So yeah, but the show should be better.
Yeah,
and the show has enough talented cast that it could do better, and I think the audience deserves better.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
The final news story that we have here is one that I respect. It's about a group that I respect for what they've done. There's a lot of people. We wouldn't have a lot of skits that we have on SNL if it wasn't for these guys here. And the fact that the headline is what caught me, and I'm like, wait, what? And that's Martin Scorsese is directing a SCTV reunion special for Netflix. It's going to be a documentary, like one of those, the traditional that you would see on NBC, like, oh, it's Friends 20 years later, and here's blanking on names now.
It looks like they might be bringing back Mad About You.
Yeah, but
that's rumored right now.
Yeah, but it's not a we're bringing it back. It's here's the actors, sitting there talking about the various things is what this is. But so we were talking a little bit about this before the show that you did watch SCTV. I've only seen bits of it.
Yeah, okay, audience, take bets now. Is Corey gonna shit on Martin Scorsese? Is Corey gonna shit on Martin Short? On Andrea Martin? There's so many Martins to choose from. What is Corey gonna rant about needlessly for 5 minutes like we give a fuck? No, I liked SCTV. It was always kind of also ran to SNL for me because it's Canadian, and so it didn't get the same recognition.
It's Canadian.
Here in the States. No, here in the States, it was not the same giant hit here as that was. It's kind of like the Frantics or Kids in the Hall. Although definitely by the time that I was age appropriate for some of these sketch shows more, Kids in the Hall was in that perfect landing place for me, that it was just, oh wow, this is fucking amazing. And later on The State as well. But absolutely a lot of great people involved in this, people that you see still today. Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, who are after multitudes of things with Christopher Guest, they're doing Schitt's Creek still, so very relevant. Andrea Martin is on that Tina Fey show that I don't watch. Yeah. Dave Thomas shows up in things all the time. We get classic people like who sadly passed away, like Harold Ramis and John Candy, or Rick Moranis, who just let his career die. It's a lot of amazing comedians, actors who all did stuff like this. And of course, as a kid, I've watched Strange Brew like 1 billion times with my friends. It was unendlessly funny in a way that I can't even explain why it was so funny to me, because it was about beer drinking and just being weird. I don't know why that was hilarious, but it was. So I'm excited to see this. Like, I'm excited to see a reunion of Monty Python. When they have one of those times when the groups just get together and they just sit and they chat and they tell jokes in front of an audience and reminisce about the good old days. Yeah, I'm totally into this.
So, Corey, you have a month right now before they do the filming of it. They're going to do the filming on Sunday, May 13th at Toronto's Elgin Theater at an event titled An Afternoon with SCTV. It'll be moderated by Jimmy Kimmel. So this is going to be like a lot of the stuff that they're going to be covering for the Martin Scorsese movie. So, I mean,
you couldn't afford Colbert?
No. But no, honestly, I look at this and I do have respect for it, because I mean, it's where this is where the point where I make you feel old, because it was, with this, when this came out, it was, I believe, before me.
1976 is when SCTV premiered in 81, and then became SCTV Network in 81, and then SCTV Channel came out in 83. Yeah.
So all that before I was born.
All that is Nickelodeon. That was strictly a 90s thing.
No, all that I was actually alive for. That was my first thing that I got into with that. So I've been following Kenan Thompson for a good while. As this sentence is coming up, like, that sounds more creepier than you think it is. But no, I've been a fan of Kenan Thompson's career for a lot longer than a lot of other people, because I grew up watching him on all that, and then the Mighty Ducks and all that. But I say this as Second City Television, all the stuff that came out with, all the iterations were before my time. By the latest one by 6 years. And sorry for making you feel old. But no, it's like, I have respect for it, because growing up, one of my favorite shows was the Red Green Show that we had here on PBS. Because we lived here on the border, like one of the border states with Canada, that we got, it's like, hey, here's Red Green. Where I think, like, if people in Arizona, I don't think they really got the Red Green Show.
Anytime someone's talking about Polka Dot Door and shit, and I'm like, oh yeah, Mr. Dress Up, and they go, what the fuck is Mr. Dress Up? You dick.
Yeah, you
Mr. Dress Up was awesome.
But no, yeah, so it's...
Don't Armisen me, motherfucker.
I didn't. I hated you because I did the Bill Hader, the Californians, right? Because that's him doing that intro part. So I didn't Armisen you yet. But yeah, honestly, this sounds really cool. Also, the big part for me is I love seeing these things, like, Monty Python was before my time. I didn't really start watching Monty Python until I was like 21, 22 and all that. Hearing the stories, and then honestly, what I hope this does is, if it's not on there already, that it puts SCTV on Netflix as well, to where people will be able to see this thing go out, but then also like me who missed it, barely caught it on repeats, that they're able to then go, okay, well, what was this about? Because that's what I did with the documentary Too Funny to Fail about Dana Carvey show. I then rewatched the Dana Carvey show and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And I love the Dana Carvey show, but at the same time, it's like, and I feel like there's a lot of other, young comedy fans that would be like that.
Yeah. Another thing that you also have to look at is, because of the time that it was filmed and produced and everything, is, do the jokes hold up the same way? Some of them are timeless. A lot of them aren't. It's like watching old Saturday Night Live episodes. You can see the work of genius of some of these characters and stuff they were doing, but they seem old, quaint, like not modernly funny. And so is the audience the same for that stuff as they would be? Now I'm watching episodes of WKRP in Cincinnati of the first season, because that's all they have on Hulu. I think I already talked about this last week.
Yeah.
And I love it, but it's funny to see how much television has changed, how much humor has changed, how much what they used to get away with, which was probably really racy in the 70s when I was watching this originally, is now very clean TV comparatively. But I have a fondness for it because I grew up with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody else would get the same humor from it as I would. Although I always recommend in the first season, that Thanksgiving episode, everybody needs to see that episode. That's just one of the funniest things of all time on TV. I still crack up almost exactly the same as I did the first time I saw it, to this day, after seeing it 20, 30 times.
Again, I'm that same way with shows like All That, where it's, if I catch that on other things, it's like where I look at that and part of me goes, I like this because the humor is very Nickelodeon, where it was like, he said fart and stuff like that.
Yeah, but at least you're looking at a comparison of something that you watched as a kid.
Yeah.
Funny. Now you're an adult. As a kid, I watched WKRP, but it was meant as adult humor. I was just getting away with staying up on Sunday nights to see it. Couldn't stay up for Taxi, though. For some reason, I had to be in bed by the time Taxi came on.
It was because of Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, that is going to do it for the news. And we will be right back. And we are back, and it is time for the ElseViews. And this is the portion of the show where I bring you 2 movies that I've seen over the past week. Because, like I said, I am not going to be talking about WrestleMania or any of that stuff. That is going to be on the ElseNerds YouTube channel. And I will probably sneak that in on the audio feed for ElseNerds alone, not the mega feed, as to be like, hey, it's the ElseNerds feed. What are you going to do? But yeah, so the first movie I'm going to talk about is the movie that came out the furthest from current day, and that is Star Wars The Last Jedi, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. The movie that I heard a lot of people sort of bag on. I have to say, and have you seen The Last Jedi?
I saw The Last Jedi in the theater.
Okay. I have to say that I enjoyed the movie. Like, I watched it on my TV right here. And I mean, even though I think I had to pause the movie with like 9 minutes remaining because my grandma was waiting out in the driveway for 10 minutes already. And I'm like, well, I didn't hear the dogs bark and I didn't hear you honk. So, I mean, how much longer could you have been out there? But no, honestly, I felt like it was really good. And I felt like, I feel like it's a little weird, the fact that it seems like they've written off Luke Skywalker and will be writing off Princess Leia because
Admiral Leia.
Admiral Leia, because of things which I'm okay with the fact that they will do that, because it'll then be will then be getting away from the Skywalkers and focusing in on these new kids and stuff like that. But it just seemed weird as to how. Yeah, and as Growley's putting, didn't Mark Hamill say he wants out, which is understandable. I mean, he's been Luke Skywalker for a long time. I actually had this discussion earlier with a a guy that comes into my work, and he's cool, but he caught me with 10 minutes before, or yeah, no, not even 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be off the clock. They're talking, I'm like, damn it.
And of course, your grandmother was waiting in the car the whole time.
No
dogs barking though.
Yeah, no dogs barking, but it's because it was Target. We only allow service dogs. And he was like, well, what do you think about this and this? I'm like, I'm like, dude, okay, like on the science stuff, because I love a lot of the science things that they got done in there. With where people, I guess a lot of people had complaints about Leia using the Force and bringing herself in. I'm like, well, if you look at because science and you use like they covered it in one of their videos, like she has a little bit of the Force with her, or she's a little bit Force sensitive. I've seen it in numerous books where it's like, she gets this feeling, or something like it's not levitating stuff, but it's just a little bit. So it's vacuum of space doesn't take a lot to get a person moving, so she just goes and moves the ship closer. Newton's laws. Every action is equal and opposite reaction. So she goes into there, and she's like, well, like, what about the oxygen? I'm like, you can survive about 90 seconds in space without oxygen. It's all just a matter of, are you panicking and going, trying to breathe in, or are you also, like?
Let's be clear. This is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah,
we don't
exactly.
know if their space is like our space. That's always been very contextual in Star Wars lore. Because if you go to Empire, remember when they're on the meteor and they're wandering around? They're not wearing spacesuits. They're wearing masks. So different space, different rules. It's a fantasy, not sci-fi. Get it fucking right, people. I don't really give a shit. Go ahead though.
But no, yeah. So I mean, honestly, I felt like it was a good movie. It was a decent movie. I enjoyed it. I mean, I watched it last week, so it's a little bit, not exactly fresh on my mind, but it felt like it went by really quick. But I think also as part of it was because of the fact that it takes place within like this 6-hour window and all that. I like the ending, with the heroes. They're celebrating these heroes that they had of, I'm blanking on the person who took over command with Leia in the infirmary, where she stays on to, and spoiler alert, the movie's been out since December, where she's piloting the ship, goes to light speed through the dreadnought. Like that, I'm like, okay, that's freaking awesome. And stuff like that.
Were you confused when the sound went out?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Vocal minority. Confused. Why is the sound not working? It's space. Well, again, subjective rules. It could be that they were just an intermission. But yeah. How did you feel about Rose?
About Rose? I liked Rose. I mean, I felt like it's okay. There's a part that throws me a little bit. It seems like Finn and Rey might have something, like they might be, becoming more than friends or something. And then we get that's what I was getting with this, with Last Jedi, is like, okay, they're both like, hey, tell Rey this or tell Finn this. And it's like, okay, do you guys need a room? Do you guys need a room?
As a person who's watched the film before it and this one, here's my thoughts on that. One, of course, it ignores the entire slash wish of Finn and Poe.
Finn and Poe, yeah.
But in the first of these movies, what was the first one called again?
Force Awakens.
Right. Okay. So Phantom fucks us. The whole Finn Rey thing seems very Finn's into Rey.
Yeah.
And of course, again, people reading Finn into Poe or Poe into Finn, whatever. That's fine. That's cool. There's a lot of room and space to
it's just
bang
guy
your neighbor.
Love between two guys. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. But it seems not one-sided necessarily, but it definitely seems more like Finn is more pining for Rey than Rey is pining for Finn. Rey's got her own shit going on. She's not really thinking so much about, hey, I got a boy chase. The other thing in this one, different storyteller taking in the middle of the series. So, like whatever JJ was planning maybe got derailed a little bit. It seems like they want to paint Rey as having conflicting feelings about Kylo. Yeah. And there's a Kylo trying to romance her into taking his side kind of thing. That's why we got shirtless Kylo memes, which is huge pectorals. Nice to see. But so while that's going on, there's no reason for Rey to feel this connection to Finn if she's never really expressed an interest in the first place. Rose coming in, and I'm not 100% sure that she has actual genuine romantic feelings for Finn or not, but the kiss at the end does give a moment of, that kind of, did it come out of nowhere, or was it building, or was it there, or was it an appreciative thing that isn't necessarily romantically inclined? I don't know that it's one or the other or all three or none of them. It just seemed okay. It's a moment where she takes him aback a little bit by the fact that she not only tells him what they're fighting for is not about one thing, it's about something else. It's about inspiring hope in everybody, which is the same message that Leia has at the end of Rogue One, but she also stops him with the kiss. It floors him. Now, he may, at that point, think, do I have feelings for Rey? Or was Rey just something that I was chasing as I was trying to find my identity when not working for the Empire? And am I finding something else here with Rose or not? And then we're left again with a cliffhanger. We don't get answers to that. I don't have a problem either way. I like Rose as a character a lot. I found that the story that they had Finn and Rose go on was less than compelling in a lot of ways, because it just seemed sort of stitched in. It's, hey, we're on this ship where everybody's in trouble and we've got to go save the day by hanging out at this fucking casino planet and find somebody that has nothing to do with the mission. Because it's like, oh, go find this guy. He'll be wearing this thing. That's how you recognize him. They see him. They get arrested. They never wind up with him. They find another random dude who can do all the exact same things. And everything in that scene felt like it was leading up to, we're going to get Lando. Yeah. And the fact that we don't get Lando, but we get some other arbitrary character bullshit that is betrayal, like what Lando did in Empire, just felt very stolen from Empire for no good reason. And it just felt very forced and not right. It just didn't work. And the casino itself, it was not interesting. It was to make statements about the Empire and all that shit. And that's all it is. But to give some hope to the denizens of that planet who aren't part of the casino, the kid who's sweeping with the broom at the end, the freeing the animals and stuff. I've heard vegan agenda and stuff. I don't give a shit about anything like that. I don't think it's an agenda. I think it's just not the best storytelling examples. But Rose's journey with her sister dying at the beginning of the movie and all the stuff she has to do, it's all these things are moving very fast for these characters. Finn, his story is moving very fast. He decides, I'm not going to work for the fucking Empire anymore. I'm going to get out of here. Then runs around finding Rey, trying to help her stay alive, get away. All of a sudden, there's a fucking Han Solo thing. Millennium Falcon, they're on some planet that can blow up other fucking planets. A lot of crazy shit for him. So he's just going nuts. And then he's knocked out. He's taken out of the fucking fight. So stuff goes on around him, and he has to wake up again in this one and adjust and figure out what he's going to do. And his first plan is, I need to go find Rey, get the fuck out of here, go find her. That's my purpose. And then he finds a new purpose. Poe, his story is finding a new purpose, being taught to not be this guy that is constantly like, I'm the coolest one here, I'm the smartest one here, automatically. No, you're cool. We all dig you, but you have a lot of fucking shit to learn. You think you know best, because you're just a hotshot, but you really need to look at the big picture. Now, could the big picture have been spelled out for him a little bit better? Probably. But would he have listened? No, because he's fucking Poe. He's the stand-in for Han Solo. Han Solo doesn't listen. Han Solo goes with his instincts. But sometimes his instincts work out for the betterment for others. He sometimes will put his benefits aside to look out for the team. And that's Poe's journey as well. He's like, I'm trying to do right by everybody, but I'm doing right in the way that I think should be done right. And you guys just are just dumb for not listening to me. And his movement is to lead him to, oh, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than my thoughts. I have to look at the big picture here. Leia, it might have been better served to have Leia be the one to teach him that, but Leia would have known too well how to teach him that. And having another character brought in to do it, I think was probably the better move, because it was someone that we as an audience didn't know we could trust. And so it made us question her motives while rooting for Poe. And then it led us not astray, but led us to think, oh, well, shit, she was right. I was just as foolish as him, because I wanted to see him go out and hotshot it and win and fucking shoot some fucking missiles, not any bigger than a womp rat, into a hole and blow up a Death Star, because that's what I'm used to. So it takes us off of our feet a little bit and teaches us a way of looking at the story that isn't just a repeat of what happened before. The Kylo Ren thing, telling Rey about her parentage, everybody's pissed off. It's like, well, fuck, we waited all this time to find out Rey's parents, and it turns out that they're nobody. No, we're told they're nobody by Kylo Ren, who's a fucking manipulative liar, who doesn't even know how to do anything himself, is just constantly like on the edge of Wuss Cliff, ready to jump off at any moment because he's just pissed off at everybody. He's trying to manipulate her to do what he says, so he can tell her your parents were nobody. He can try to convince her of that shit. And if she buys into it, she buys into it. But who is he? One, is he an authority? No. But he is somebody who's trying to manipulate her, not even to the dark side, but to his side. So that she doesn't take the bait is a big deal, but she still is buying into his bullshit a little bit, because that's the thing, is the dark side would tempt. The light side would tempt, but try to do it in a like good, clean way. It's like Google do no evil bullshit. Whatever this new thing that he is doing is the same tricks. It's just in a gray area as opposed to a black or white area. So all of the things that I hear people complaining about, I get. And if you walk out of it and you're like, that movie wasn't what I wanted, and certainly the stuff with Luke, because we expect Luke to be the hero, even though Luke has run the fuck away before. And well, that is where we start with Luke. He does come out of it, and he does do what he has to help save everybody. Ben Kenobi disappeared into the fucking sands and hid out for years, and didn't even really know who Luke was when Luke showed up, because the story wasn't written well then. Bullshit Anakin took off to the dark side. It's a repetitive thing. We know this stuff over and over. These are the stories. They're just going to repeat. But Luke did show up. He came to fight for his friends. He came to put the smackdown on Kylo, in the only way that he could without actually harming Kylo, which is something that he never wanted to do. He'd already made his decision on that. And he had to be taught by Yoda, who looked very puppetish in this, which is good. I like that.
I think it was the puppet. Like, I think
it absolutely was.
Yeah.
No, it was. But that was the thing, is like, I remember Yoda in Empire being a lot better done as puppetry than what Yoda looked like in this. And maybe it's because the pictures are clearer and stuff, but
yeah,
it's like, wow, okay, they didn't put a lot of time and effort into it like what you expected from the old days, but I don't care, because I got to see fucking Yoda.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I love the movie. I mean, you got into a lot of why people bagged on it. There's been very few movies that I've given up on, halfway through the movie, because they just didn't interest me. Like, I'm like, oh, I think I might like it, and nope. And I don't think there will be a Star Wars movie that does that will do that. But I mean, honestly, all in all, it's going to be one of those things that you will have, like, you as a person will have to watch and figure out yourself. I'm only going to say, hey, I say watch it, but what can I say? I mean, I'm only, some asshole on the internet.
Do you feel like, because this is what I feel like, do you feel like these movies would have been better if they didn't have Han and Leia and Luke?
I feel like if they did have to do it to bridge, like I get it for like safety's sake for the first one, but I mean, definitely, move away from that as much as possible.
I don't want to watch movies where it's just the excuse of having my favorite characters in there is to see them die.
Yeah.
That seems like a really shitty move to me. Is they killed Admiral Akbar, they killed Han, they've killed effectively Luke, and if Luke doesn't come back as a Force ghost, it's a real bummer to just have that be the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why it's necessary to have that end, just like I don't think it was necessary to do an exploration of Anakin turning into Vader in the prequels, because it was telling a story that we already know what the ending is, and the joy of getting there wasn't really all that joyous. So it gets to be like you never have a hero to root for in that, and the characters that you might have gotten attached to, you just watch them go. Although Rogue One, everybody's going to die in that, but I think Rogue One was far more successful because it didn't deal with those same characters.
Yeah.
It comes up to their story at the end of it, so it leads into Vader and Leia and all that shit, but the whole movie itself is about other characters entirely, and seeing and getting involved in their lives and watching all that stuff is a different thing. If these sequels had been Rey, the legacies of those characters,
yeah, that
would have been a little more palatable to me. And I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying these. I definitely am. But
yeah,
here's where Han's been, and here's Han back, and now Han's dead. And here's where Luke's been, and Luke's back, and now Luke's dead. And Leia is gonna die off screen. But I just, why even do it? It's like the books where they wrote the death of Chewbacca and they wrote the death of other characters. No one wants that story. You want to think about these characters going on forever, and all the stories that you could do with them at some point, but just never got to. And having the actors come back, and I love that all of these actors got to come back to get work, to get a resurgence in popularity, because they all deserve it. And they're all great.
Yep.
But at the same time, if it's just I'm bringing them back to kill them off, why even do that then? Because it's not beneficial to the fans. Nobody wants to see the movie where Han Solo dies. That's not what anybody's asking for. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good movie, but I'm saying that if you said, oh, we're going to do this new Star Wars movie and Han Solo's going to die in it, well, I don't want to see that. If that was your pitch, no, thank you. Sorry, not interested. It's like if the next Indiana Jones 5, which we know is going to be the last Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford, and they're like, yeah, this is a movie where we kill off Indiana Jones. Fuck you. You're not getting my money. I'm not even sure if I'll watch it out of morbid curiosity on cable, because that's not what I want to see. But who knows?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, it's so weird. It's so weird, like recommending movies sometimes, because, like, even with the discussion that the guy had, like, he's like, because I'm giving I'm giving now like the passive, like, well, if you like it, you like it. If you don't answer. And he's like, well, I'm like, dude, I don't really know, because like, well, you gotta look at it this way, look at it that way, and all this. He's like, oh yeah, good point, and all. But no, honestly, I'm excited for the next movie because, well, Solo, I'm cautiously optimistic for, but Episode 9, with J.J. Abrams coming back, that one I'm excited for. The other movie that I want to talk about actually has to do with these puppies right here. For the audio listeners, I am holding a box with 3 plastic keys in it. And with these keys, I've released them earlier on in the video. If you
can unlock Maid Marian's chastity belt. Yeah.
If you find them, you inherit the kingdom that is the ElseNerds, and it will all be yours. Oh wait, no.
Please take it.
Yeah, yeah. Please take my wife, please. But no. So these are the 3 keys that you see from that are the big, the MacGuffin of sorts for the movie Ready Player One. This is the other movie that I've seen. I've been so excited for this since I read the book by Ernie Klein, who co-wrote the screenplay with Zach Penn. And for those of you guys who do not know, I'm going to read the synopsis here up at top from IMDb. When the creator of a virtual reality world called the Oasis dies, he releases a video in which he challenges all Oasis users to find his Easter egg, which will give the finder his fortune. So this is set in the future. It's set in 2045. The user or the creator, James Halliday, he in the book he was big fan of the 80s, because I believe he grew up in that time and all that. So the 80s definitely influenced his his life. Seeing this movie, my biggest thing that when I left it was too short. This is one of those. Now I know I'm pretty sure you can find older videos, whether they be ElseNerds or Watching Weekly or what else is on, where I said, why are they splitting up a book into multiple movies? It's obviously just a money grab. With this, I feel like they left quite a bit out that like I could have seen them doing 2 or 3 books. You do 3 would be the obvious one, because there are 3 keys. You just do Ready Player One, the copper key, the jade key, and crystal key, and all that. But at the same time, I enjoy what we have. And well, it's not so much that it's an adaptation, because Beats putting is that that'll always be the case with adaptations. It's more of the fact that it takes, like in the book, it takes him a while, and we have more world building of the Oasis than the Oasis is where you can do anything. And they put in here that he's a student. He's in actually he's a senior in high school, where they go and showing the high school worlds in here where they're all the same school, and where the avatars are more, where they're more human versions than the some of the more fantastical avatars that you have throughout the rest of the place. And it's not till I think 3/4 of the way through part 1 in the book where they finally get the copper key and stuff like that. But here in the movie, it's in the first 20 minutes that he gets the copper key, and it's all right, that seems awfully quick. Now don't get me wrong, overall I love this movie. This movie is great. They did, at least in my opinion, probably the best job of adapting a book to a movie in a good long while. One of the things that I found interesting is read the trivia. I'm not even through the trivia page on here, but it points out a lot of the different things from the movie, behind the scenes stuff. One of the cool things that I will put in here is on the special effects side, because this game or this movie, a lot of it takes place in the Oasis itself, and it's interesting at how they did the mocap. I'm pretty sure they did all the put on the suits and put all the little dots on your face to capture the mocap. But what they did is, at least on the with Industrial Light and Magic, the visual effects side, they left the person's mouth alone completely. There was no exaggerations. For example, if they were doing the Joker, where his mouth is bigger or anything like that, every person's mouth with their avatars was the person's mouth. It was almost like they just kept right here and just used the raw footage and stuff, and just blended it in, which made it look great. Made it look like, okay, we know that this is Artemis, because where you see all the stuff, you still see her face. It's almost like she's still acting in real in real time, in real life, and they're just doing digital enhancements, as opposed to Space Jam, where okay, we got green suit or Andy Serkis, with all the stuff on, and now it's just completely masking over him with the digital character. The movie, oh my gosh, the premise really good. I love the changes that they made. They did make some good changes, and part of me felt like that was Ernie Klein going, it should end this way. Like, let's gonna tweak it a little bit. The other little thing that I wish they stayed a little bit truer to, at least from how and it is basically a love story, but it's not a love story the way you would think. Corey, have you seen Ready Player One?
No, and I haven't read the book.
Okay, so the book is good. Narrated by Will Wheaton on Audible, so I highly recommend that. But you have in the book, Ogden Morrow, who in the movie he's played by Simon Pegg. Ogden Morrow gathers up the kids and puts them, and helps them out in like this Yoda sort of way before the final battle. And he takes place in big part of the book for it. And here you really only see Simon Pegg and his Ogden Morrow character in archival footage, which again is a brilliantly done with the archival footage, because basically what they do in here, James Halliday had all of his stuff recorded. Every interaction he had was recorded. And the brilliant thing that they do, and I'll use the box as an example, because one of the scenes they have it in a cafeteria. So, and you can look at it, from this side, but with how they had the camera set up, and it's almost like they're doing it in real time, like on a, with like the cameras that just, they're lined up where it just, it's, but they move. It's almost like they recorded everything in like this 360-degree camera room or something. And then Steven Spielberg just moved the camera, or had the editors move the camera to where he wanted to get the thing. It looked very cool, very realistic, like pulling itself out of the movie. Like this is, like home video quality, but showing future technology. But yeah, like Simon Pegg, and you only really see him as the older Ogden Morrow until the end. And I'm like, well, I mean, why couldn't we have more Simon Pegg? I mean, he's great. And then the actor who plays Halliday, Mark Rylance, is brilliant. I couldn't tell his age throughout this whole thing from watching him. So I'm like, well, wait, is he a young guy playing older, or an older guy playing younger, and all this? And it turns out he's 58, I think, or something. He was born in 1960. So I think my math is off. But I mean, so he's not that old, but still, it's one of those things that he was able to play both sides, and they didn't have the Age of Ultron, here's young Tony Stark, and it's, it looks just so off, or the last Pirates of the Caribbean where we got young Johnny Depp, and it's like sort of deal. Like all of it looked so natural. Basically, I'm saying go watch this movie. You will enjoy it. It is so good.
I can't quite quantify why I'm not excited to read or see Ready Player One, other than the fact that so many people who are raving about it always say, "Oh man, how could you have not read that book? You would be like the perfect person for it. It just seems like you." And I'm like, yeah, that's probably the problem, is that all of my weird quirks about pulling up useless trivia and honing in on every fucking thing is the shit that I have a problem with about myself.
Yeah.
They're my faults, not things that I celebrate. Also, it depends on who you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the reviews I've heard about the story is that it's not so much a really well-written story, or that the story is even all that. It's just a Easter egg hunt for all the references of the 80s. And that's not interesting to me as a book. And when I hear about how people who loved Ready Player One reacted to Armada and how it's just so totally opposite, I feel like, yeah, there's a reason why Ready Player One was a really hot book for a short period of time, and then you're done with it. And yeah. I'm sure that there's a lot of things to like about it. I'm not in a hurry to put a lot of time into reading it or even listening to it with Will Wheaton reading it, which seemed like it would be cool. I'll catch the movie at some point probably. I feel like I'm doomed to be disappointed in it. And maybe that's me predetermining that I'm going to be disappointed.
A lot of it, though, honestly, is like I look at this and it's a love letter to the 80s. It's set in the future, but it's really a love letter. The book. Now, the movie, it skews more newer because they're using like looking at, you know, a lot of these you know, these trivia bits. There's a lot of newer things, like seeing Tracer in there from Overwatch, and, you know, the Halo crew in there.
Iron Giant.
Yeah, it's seeing the Iron Giant, which there are some things that I'm like I'm taking. The Gundam was still from the 80s as well, but Iron Giant, they replaced him with they replaced him from in the book. It was the Spider-Man's mech from the Japanese Spider-Man show, Leopard. But obviously they had to, like, they got it's interesting reading the trivia bits, but both books, honestly, the Armada and Ready Player One, which Armada is going to be next up as a movie, you know, it's going to be coming up here pretty soon. They're both really love letters to the 80s. It's, you know, it's Ernie Klein.
Yeah, but I feel like all of the cool stuff I kind of saw in the trailer. It's like Pixels. You see the trailer for Pixels, or you see the short that Pixels was based on. You're like, oh, that's all really cool.
Yeah.
There's 2 hours of this? And like, how much of it is I'm going to get my fill of it very quickly and then not have anything of substance there to retain my interest?
Yeah.
And if it's a subpar characterization, if it's not really strong female leads at all, I have my biases as to what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
From a good story and a good movie. And I feel like that's why I'm not jazzed about it. But everybody who is, it's like, this is one of those things where I just probably missed the boat. If I had been the first person of all the people I knew to read Ready Player One, I might have been excited about it and talking about it to everybody.
Yeah.
But coming into it later is like coming into the Harry Potter novels after you've already known for how many years that Dumbledore dies. Well, okay. It's a spoiler-ridden show.
No, yeah. But no, I mean, honestly, I get it completely. Because put in there, you know, the question is more if Artemis was a weak female character, you know, just serving the male lead. I don't think she was. You know, I feel like she's really great. You know, her motivations are so pure when it comes to this. Like, she wants she wants to claim the fortune so that the IOI guys don't get it. And as you're going throughout the book, you're like, with the book, you understand Parsifal, aka Wade Watts's mindset, but that's also because he's the narrator. With this, you don't really know what his mindset is going to be, because of the fact that, you know, you don't have the world building that you got of him in school, you know, doodling and looking up research while in class. And yeah, I'm entering a minefield, but that's where I honestly feel like she passes. What's that one test where, like, you know, she doesn't have a scene in there really at all where she's talking with another woman about a man. There's not that in here. But I feel, the Benchel test or whatever it is, I feel like it's really strong, you know, kick on all parts. The other character in there, H, is a woman, which I didn't realize. It's, oh God, who is it? The stand-up comedian from she's the black lady on Master of None. That's one of Aziz Ansari's character's friends. I don't know if you've seen Master of None or not.
I have not.
She does the AT&T commercials for the Your Thing commercials. It's that actress in here. You've probably seen those. It's just you block them out or whatever. Anyways, I didn't know until they did the reveal that she was H. I'm like, oh, it's just some guy or whatever doing it. And I'm like, wait, what? And then when they went back into the world, I'm like, oh yeah, I hear it now. I hear her, with the modulated to be a guy voice in there. But yeah, and again, as Pete said, Ask Women, obviously, I feel like it's a strong character. She's a strong female character in there. Sorrento is a great villain. TJ Miller's in here. He's in here as a, he's a minion in here. Sorrento as the bad guy, so great. There's even a little moment in here where he's got, where Sorrento, the leader of IOI, who wants to get the Easter egg so that he now owns Gregarious Games, with, and so he owns all the internet and all that stuff. He's such a brilliant villain. Like you just can't help but hate him. And I have to give it to the actor who played him. Like he played him so well. Ben Mendelsohn as Sorrento. He's so lovable but hateable at the same time. But yeah, that's it. I mean, it's out in theaters right now. Star Wars: Last Jedi is out on Blu-ray and DVD, or 4K Blu-ray. 4K Blu-ray. If you got the 4K Blu-ray player or digital, you can find that out, at retail stores now. And the keys I got at Target for $10. And that is going to do it for the ElseViews, and we'll be right back with the ElseWords. And we are back, and it is time for the ElseWords. This is the portion of the show where we talk about the main topic thing, and this is all about the Cannes Film Festival. And it's also weirdly enough tied to Ready Player One, because I think Steven Spielberg came out and said that he doesn't think Netflix movies should be eligible for the Cannes Film Festival.
I don't know if it was the Cannes Film Festival or awards that are meant for films. So back up. The Cannes Film Festival decided that it would not air movies that are not played in theaters, which Netflix has some movies that they put in theaters, mostly I think for Oscar consideration.
Yeah.
And some that they don't. And what Netflix has decided is to take a stand and not go to Cannes this year, because they feel that their movies should qualify the same as any other movie. And there are others who have made statements, like Steven Spielberg, who says that Netflix films shouldn't be eligible for Oscars, because the Oscars is an institution about seeing movies in theaters. And it's kind of a old man argument, screaming clouds, which I do all the time on the show. Of I'm beholden to things the way that they are. I don't think these changes are good, and so I'm going to speak out against them and say, hey, we have this tradition and history, and things have always been done this way, and drink from that water fountain over there. I'm not trying to say that Steven Spielberg is being racially discriminate with this. I'm just saying, what an asshole mindset.
Yeah.
Because I make movies that are in theaters, and therefore I'm good at this. And you guys don't make movies for theaters, so you're bad at this. And you shouldn't be celebrated by this, and I should, because I'm still here making movies, even though they're all shit. See Gregor's review of Ready Player One 5 minutes ago. Segment. Yeah. And Beats pointing out that's not what he's saying at all. I'm not really saying that he is. I'm fucking being facetious.
So the big part here, honestly, though, is that Cannes, and I'm looking at their rules, and a lot of them make sense. The first rule is that films that have been produced during the 12 months preceding the festival are allowed in. Duh. We're not going to, bring out a movie that that Neil Blomkamp made when he was 12, or Steven Spielberg made when he was 12, on a Super 8 millimeter camera and all that now for this. Well, no, we're not going to do that.
Why?
For a film festival now, it sort of makes sense in that regard. Like, you wouldn't do something old for now. You want to have it
Here's my point. So you have a film. Let's go back a few years. Film like Boyhood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Boyhood was filmed over a number of years. It was an experimentation in filmmaking. Sure, the project wasn't done until this year, but there are plenty of films that don't get released for years after they are completed.
Yeah.
They get shelved, they get put out later on, and what if one of those things takes off? Is it because that it was made in 2016 but not released until 2018 that should disqualify it?
No,
it's a pretty arbitrary thing. If Spielberg finds some magic footage, or fuck, what if they put out The Day the Clown Cried? And unbeknownst to all of us who've heard these rumors about it for decades now, it turned out to be a fucking masterpiece, like the way that he always thought it was going to be. And suddenly it's like, holy shit, you got to see this fucking Nazi clown movie, which Taika Waititi is doing instead. But what if that actually happened? Should that movie then be disqualified because it's sat in a vault for years because the audience wasn't prepared for it, or the producers weren't willing to put it out and be brave enough to do it? Or does it get to be stacked up the same thing as everything else? It's like, it's here now, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I wrote Ready Player One in 2014. I didn't. But whatever. And then the movie just got made. So, but it doesn't count because it was 2014. You dick. You should have jumped on that shit. I want to understand why the rules are the rules, and if they're across the board fair, or if they're just bullshit put in place for some stodgy old fuck in an academy room who's like, nah, I like it this way.
No, hold on. Because this first rule, you're jumping down the throat for the first rule. This one makes sense. Now, there would be exceptions because of, like, for example, Boyhood. You know, you gave that where it was filmed.
Would that be an exception?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, it was filmed over the course of 12 years and stuff like that. It's like I could see that being an exception with it because of what it was accomplishing there, where it would be
because someone arbitrarily decided, oh well, the rules don't quite count in this case. It's a special exception.
Well,
and that's what I mean. Rules that are so arbitrary are just bullshit.
Well, in that case, all rules are bullshit because they're all arbitrary.
Yes, anarchy, motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's start acting like Nate here and just call for anarchy.
Well, I am gonna say that in the case of this, we're talking about what qualifies as art.
Yeah,
what qualifies as a film. If we're looking at TV shows, what qualifies as a TV show? Do Netflix shows have to be changed from being called television shows because they're not actually aired over a television signal? Although most TV isn't aired over a television signal anymore because a lot of that shit went away when we went digital.
Yeah.
Does nothing on ABC or CBS count as a television show?
Yeah.
Since it's now an HD programming that comes over an HD antenna.
Now, again,
somewhere in point in time, the rules stayed the same when the mediums changed. And so does a movie still qualify as a movie because it didn't play in a theater? I don't know. I don't know why that's a rule. When shouldn't a movie matter when it touches people's hearts and minds and souls? Shouldn't a movie be qualified by the fact that people actually watched it? How many fucking people sit and watch the troll fucking movie on Netflix with Will Smith in it? Whether or not they liked it, more people watch that shit, or they watch the immediacy of the new Cloverdale after the fucking Super Bowl, then go out to see most Academy Award winning Best Pictures or Best Picture nominations. More people will sit and watch this shit on Netflix. So why is one more valued than the other?
Now you're hitting at something completely different. You're hitting at film festivals in general.
Yes,
because you can think about it though. There needs to be some different things because I mean, certain movies aren't going to do good at a South by Southwest Film Festival than would at a Toronto International Film Festival.
But not doing good does not mean not allowed to be there.
No, but what I'm trying to get at, because again, you're striking down at the first rule here. There's 6 other ones.
Yeah, let me get at those.
And well, you can read through and you can just start going through it. But like I'm saying, so that one, it does make sense to me. Rule number 1 makes sense to me. Like, of something that's being produced over a year. Now there would be some exceptions, but it's more like, I look at it like they're looking at it in this regard of, you have a movie that's about 6 characters, and you get going, and oh well, we have to recast one character, but we don't want to redo it. We don't want to lose everything that we've filmed. So it's now 3 years later, and you have 18 people playing these 6 characters. That would get excluded. More than likely would get excluded. Now this is another one that it makes perfect sense for me. Films, because this has been a canned rule forever. Films that have not been released anywhere other than their country of origin. There's a side note of another rule with this, where it's Cannes has to be the first festival that they release to. Those two make sense because it's more for the judging. Because if you have a movie that's been released, elsewhere, and was at, for example, TIFF, which is another big film festival, the Toronto International Film Festival, then that would influence the judges here, or even the Sundance Film Festival. In I think it's in Utah or Colorado. That would influence a lot of the judges here at Cannes. And it's more of we want to be completely clean of, these movies, to where we can judge them based on their art and all that. Where you get into some trickier ones, where I could see you jumping in on, is films that have not been exhibited on the internet. That's the Netflix rule right there. And all that, where, them, much like Amazon, but Amazon more so, Amazon is playing, trying to play nice with the movie theaters, where, with like Manchester by the Sea and The Big Sick, where they had them run in the theaters. Like, it wasn't until DVD release that, and I think even Moonlight was a Netflix show too, where they got into DVD release here in America, that they then ended up on Amazon Prime, and stuff like that. The other one that seems a little weird, but I get it, but still seems weird because it seems like the Oscars go longer with theirs, is Rule 6. If participating in the quote unquote short film category, films that do not exceed 15, basically you can't go over 15 minutes in length, including the credits. That part makes sense, but I would then go, well, why 15? Why not, 30 or something like that? But it's like, I get the whole point with all the rules. It's definitely a why, and I feel like we're gonna hit something here with Netflix pulling out, just saying no, we're not gonna do Cannes. That's gonna be a lot of notoriety that people look at. You look at Brian Ibbett over at the Morning Stream, where he's one of those guys that for the Oscars he tries to watch every single movie that is nominated for the Oscars, so that he goes in there and goes, no, I don't think that movie should have won. I think this one should have, including the documentaries.
A professional reviewer is not what we're doing, obviously.
No, we're just two horse shit.
And I appreciate that movie go round that Brett and Nicole do. I forget the name of their co-host. I'm so sorry. Is a great show, because I think that they take things far more seriously than, say, what Matt and I do on Pot. And I appreciate both different sides of it. And sometimes just people hanging out talking about if they liked a movie or not. And that's what we do. I do think that it's funny when you see things like the Golden Globes nominating Get Out as a comedy, even though it's not a comedy, but that's what they wanted to put it in as a category, because I don't know why. Sometimes these things are just, the rules don't make sense, or they only make sense when they feel like sticking to them, and then other times they don't. When Linda Hunt won Best Actress for The Year of Living Dangerously, but she was playing a male character, legitimately, she's an actress, but she could have been nominated for Best Actor. It really is a moment of a gray area where we'll choose how we want to choose. My point is, what it shows is that this lesson of, if you want to get in Cannes, you have to be this. If you want to get in the Oscars, you have to do this. It's a very old-fashioned way of thinking. And while there's something to be said for tradition, there's also something to be said for knowing where the audience is headed now. And does it make the Oscars or Cannes Film Festival or any number of other things less valuable to the current audience of today. People already aren't watching the Oscars in the ways that they used to. They're not fascinated with Hollywood in the same way they used to be. They're as fascinated with fucking reality TV stars as they are actual movie stars. The glamour isn't there. It's more of the rumors and stuff that people are into, the paparazzi schemes. So the whole outlook has changed on these things, and it just feels very weird to me. And so is it better? Is it better to create a new Oscars that is inclusive of these things, that doesn't have these old stigmas of rules? And would it make it more enjoyable to watch if they updated these things instead of having the Academy? And we already know the Academy is mostly bullshit, because a lot of the times people don't even watch the films. They watch the ones that they're interested in, they skip over the other ones. So they're making a rating based off of, this is just what I wanted to see, which I would expect that from a review show like this. We're not saying we're watching every goddamn movie. We're not saying we're super Hollywood based or whatever. We're watching stuff that we're interested in. But when you're talking about Oscars and you're in charge of looking at the nominations and saying, with all fairness, you can have your bias of, I like this kind of movie over this kind of movie. But if you don't even watch the movie, you're not even fairly judging it.
Yeah.
So the idea of what these things do, are they so out of touch that they don't matter? And when I hear stuff like this, it makes me think even more that they don't matter. I don't have an interest. Not that I've ever really did, but I don't have an interest in Cannes Film Festival if they can't even present the idea of why it's important to be in a theater, other than the fact that that's just how it's always been. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And when you see quality content, and I'm not saying that fucking Bright movie with Will Smith and the Trolls was, I didn't hate it. But when you see quality content hitting these things like Amazon and Netflix or HBO or whatever, and I'm sure HBO had to go through these growing pains too, of when they were doing shows that were originals and not showing up on the Emmys and stuff for a while. And it took a while because, well, that's a pay TV station. It's not broadcast TV. It's not stuff that everybody can see. You have to pay to get in there. It's got a gatekeeper. So we don't count that. That's probably true that happened then too. I'm more excited for what happens when it opens up than I am to see it closed off, because then I'll know that they're at least choosing from everything, as opposed to choosing from a very small vat of stuff as to what is truly the best film or the best director or whatever.
So we're just so you guys know, we're getting this from the Variety.com article, where in there they mention Thierry Frémaux, they're trying my best on that name, the artistic director of Cannes, and Variety asked Ted Sarandos, the Netflix CEO, are you deciding to or not to participate in Cannes this year, or in the Cannes Film Festival? And he said, well, it's not our decision to make. Thierry announced the change in their qualification rules that requires a film to have distribution in France to get in, which is completely contrary. This is where we're getting to the meat of this, of why film festivals even matter, which is completely contrary to the spirit of any film festival in the world. Film festivals are to help films get discovered so that they can get distribution. Under those rules, you could not release our films day and date to the world like we've released nearly 100 films over the last couple of years. So even besides that, when you look at that, like, there's going to be a lot of films to where I think they're going to back down. I think the Cannes Film Festival is going to back down, and within probably 10 years, they're going to do it because of the fact that long.
I mean, because the reason why this was done is that the French theater owners and unions protested the inclusion of the films to the director of Cannes, because there's a law in the country that requires movies to not appear in home platforms for 36 months after the theatrical release, which is 3 years. There's a law in France to not have movies shown for the home for 3 years after they're released in theater. So that's already just wackadoo with how people consume content these days. And you know what? I'm gonna point fingers, France. If the Day the Clown Cried, Jerry Lewis, your fucking favorite, weirdos. If that thing came out 3 years after the fucking 50 that you've waited to see it in the first place, if you didn't see it in the theater, you keep waiting, keep hoping. It's a long train ride for those kids. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and I mean, no, but I mean, it's honestly, it's like you look at this, and there's the interviews all in there. It's one of those things that a lot of the film festivals, they're where you see the movies, like a lot of the Fox Searchlight movies. You know, they're probably were found on, like we talked about them last week, where they were probably found on, you know, at Sundance, you know, at various film festivals. You know, a lot of these movies is where they get found because it's how you get exposure as a young director. Is you make a short film and go there. Now it does change with, you know, with the internet and stuff, but even then it's one of those things, like if you're trying to play to the old fogies, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep doing the young man's game, or are you going to play by the old fogies rule?
Well, they're playing by the theater's rule, which is
is the old fogies.
Support the theaters, although get Movie Pass. That's what I mean, though, is that what the theaters are doing to cans is they're making can less relevant to today's audience, which is going to make the theaters less relevant already, and can is going to lose favor, and then another thing is going to open up, and it's going to be the hot new ticket, and people will go to that festival instead. Or they'll watch the festival at home on their fucking Roku, as you do.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is it's like anything else, is that technology gets us someplace where we're advancing, we're moving forward, and then somebody pops up and says, well, I don't like this. Why don't you? Well, because it's different. Yeah. You know, sometimes different is good. Remember when doctors didn't wash their hands and then they would treat you and you get all these great infections because soap wasn't involved? Then somebody said, oh shit, washing our hands improves things greatly. Let's do that. I'm sure some asshole popped up like, I don't want to wash my hands. I just want to operate clean dirt. It just, man, I'm just going to take a crap right on your insides. Some asshole is not who you should be listening to. Move along, man.
Corey, we're some assholes. Don't tell them not to listen to us.
I tell people all the time not to listen to me.
But no, yeah, honestly, I mean, I don't know. There's not much more that could be said. That it's just not, you know, us repeating ourselves over and over again. So I will repeat how I normally end the show. And, you know, that's going to do it for us. And real quick, you can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966 or emailing us mail@elsenerds.com. And all of these subscription options and links can be found over at gncasts.com/subscribe. And, you know, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/galacticnetcasts for all the shows that are on the network. You'll see the posts of when they are live, on whether it be the Alien Invasion or, you know, ElseNerds or Podcast with Terror, or Double Jump, I believe, is another show that's out there, and then the Jedi Archives and Hunu in Review. You know, when there's more news with that, and you know, go there. That's gonna be the easiest way to find it. And you can follow. You know, it's also ElseNerds. We post some stuff there. We're trying to get better at it, honestly. You know, it's also where you can find us on Twitter at ElseNerds, at Galactic Netcast. Our producers, Beatmasters at Beatmaster80. I'm at that Gregor. You can see my last tweet where I posted a Sunday about Kevin Dunn, the producer, fucking up and giving AJ Styles, saying he was the Universal Champion. I tweeted that out to a guy who does a YouTube thing. And you can find that over at that Gregor, and my Twitch at twitch.tv/@/thatgregor. And Corey, what is the STFU-cast?
Oh, well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Academy for their consideration of the show. And the second of all, yeah, you know what, man? It was a rough week. So unfortunately, if you are a person who listened last week and I mentioned the other podcast I'm doing, Solutions to Fix the Universe at stfucast.com, it didn't happen. And I'm sorry for that. Nobody likes to miss a week of their show, especially their second official episode. And I could lay blame at some other people's feet, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, look, man, we're going to come back. We're going to do it. We're going to make it right. We're going to make it right. And that's what that show is about.
Than ever.
No, we're still going to be just as shitty. Yeah. But we're going to be right in our shit. And if you want to listen to the previous episodes that we've done, our beta episode and the official first episode, and you haven't yet, or if you want to re-listen and just go, really? Someone thinks this way? Wow. And they put it out in the air? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. And TJ Miller's getting shit. You can go to stfucast.com. Another place you can find more of me ranting about stuff, but more trying to keep my friend Matt's brain in check. You can look up gncast.com/pot. We talk about horror movies. Same thing. Not legitimate reviews. Just a couple of guys talking about the stuff we like, the stuff we maybe find wasn't up to our snuff, but could be up to yours. And it could help give you a little bit of discovery of the horror films that are out there available. And sometimes we have really cool guests, which we've got a couple coming up. So check that out, gncast.com/pot.
That's right. And of course, there's always Sean Burns, who gets the eternal plug here of at SBurnsPA. We seriously need to get a hold of him because, the weather is getting nicer and we need to get him on, if he's going to be doing are we going to have the Summer of Sean? Actually, that's what we should call it. Summer of Sean. Hey, I like that. The final thing to be said is this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you next week.
Or else.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's gncast.com.